Hello everyone, this is Just a Dad. Today I'm excited to do a detailed review on this brand new Farberware side-by-side coffee maker. Dual brew coffee maker from Walmart for $79, model number FW611000428831. It's got a 12 cup, you can do a 12 cup pot of coffee on the left, and you can do a K-cup or a reusable filter on the right side, single serve. So right now I think this is only available at Walmart. So earlier I did an unboxing. If you want to go over any measurements or anything, check out my unboxing video. I did a setup before first use. So they want you to run some water through the coffee pot side and the K-cup side before you use it. I did a video on that. This video is going to be my detailed review. I'm going to be making coffee on the carafe side and the K-cup side and using the reusable filter with your own coffee grounds. I'm pretty excited about this. This holds 3 tablespoons of coffee. That's very unusual. Normally these only hold 2 because a K-cup only holds 2 tablespoons. So first, let's just kind of look the machine over. It's got a very nice touch screen. That's the power button. You hold it to turn it off. It does beep. It only beeps when you turn it on and off. And again, this is for the carafe side. You just hit the brew button, but we're not going to do that right now. And then it's got a K-cup side and a ground coffee. Two different buttons depending on what you use. Over here, here's the glass carafe. It's 12 cups. It's very nice. It pours really nice. It's got this hinged lid. This does have a warming plate, so this will keep your coffee warm for 2 hours. After 2 hours, it shuts off automatically, and there's no way to adjust that. Here is the coffee maker side. It's got this lid. That's your brew head. Here's your brew basket. It takes a cone filter. Now this is the brew basket. You have to put a paper filter or a reusable filter in there. Either one, but you don't use both of them at the same time. There's where the water goes. I don't see where you can put a water filter down there. It's got this window on the side to let you know how much water is on the coffee maker side. Now the coffee maker, whatever water you put here is what it's going to brew when you hit the brew button. So if you want 12 cups, put 12 in. If you want 8, fill it up to the 8. It brews whatever amount of water here is in here all the way down. So let's look at the carafe side. It's got this little push button. You got to push that, lift up. You've got your sharp needle right there, so be careful. This is your K-cup basket. It has a needle in the bottom of it too, so be careful. And then there's what they call that, the funnel. And if I want to use, this is for reusable, or this is for using your own coffee grounds. It's kind of hinged. And again, there's a max line, but what's exciting, this holds 3 tablespoons. That's very unusual to hold 3 tablespoons. That's going to help increase the amount of coffee we can make. Now this takes standard K-cups. When the K-cup, now make sure when you put the K-cup holder in, it's got this little notch right here. And again, you're just going to put the K-cup in and you're going to close it. It's going to puncture the top and the bottom all at once. There, it poked the top and the bottom. Let's look at the reservoir for the K-cup side. Now this is going to be a little different. Now if you're used to like a Keurig machine, this has a reservoir, but it brews whatever amount you put in here each time. So it doesn't have a reservoir that you fill up. You don't press like an 8-ounce, 6-ounce button. So when you want to brew 8 ounces of coffee, it's got these little steps. So see the 6-ounce, 8-ounce, 10-ounce, 14-ounce. So whatever amount of water you put back in here, each time it's going to brew that. You have to fill this up every time you want to brew a single serve. There's the actual reservoir. Again, whatever amount of water is in here, it brews the entire amount. So if I only want an 8-ounce coffee, I have to fill it up to that 8-ounce step. And I'm going to show you that. But this will go all the way up to 14 ounces is the max. 6 ounces is the minimum. So let's look at the control panel. Again, it's got this power button. It's got this really nice Farberware here. Now, if the machine is, to turn it off, you got to hold this power button. Again, this is a touch panel. I found this touch panel very responsive and it works very nice. I'm pretty hard on touch screens. I really want them to work well. I give this one a 9 out of 10. I think it works very well. So if your machine it turns off after 2 hours, this is what it's going to look like. It's going to display the time and the power button. And you're going to come up here and just hit the power button. This turns on. You can program it. You can program it to start and brew a pot of coffee in the morning. You can't brew a K-Cup in the morning automatically. There's the auto button when you want to turn the auto on. There's the brew button. So when you've got your coffee in and you're ready to brew, you just hit the brew button. That's like brew pot of coffee now. So we're going to turn that off. It's got a 1 to 4 cup. That's for the coffee maker side. Now, it's still, the coffee maker is going to brew whatever amount of water you put in here. But if you want a small amount, press the 1 to 4 cup, but you still have to put either 1 or 4 cups in. It just changes the brewing process. It doesn't change, it won't brew, like you can't fill that up to the 12 mark, hit that button, and it'll only brew 1 to 4 cups. No, that's not how it works. It always brews whatever amount is in the water reservoir, but this just changes the way it brews, so it gives you a better cup when you do a smaller amount. And when we want that, we just press that and it kind of lights up. Let's get out of that. Here we've got our hour and minute. Be careful, if you touch these, it does change the time right away. We have an AM and a PM light. That's really nice. Now over here, this is called the K-Cup or the single serve side. These two buttons right here. Again, there's no ounce button or nothing. It's going to brew whatever amount of water you put in the back, but it does have a K-Cup. I call that the K-Cup, called Capsule or ground. Again, when I put this in there, I hit this button. This is for when I brew my own coffee grounds. I'm going to hit this button and it starts the brew process, but I'm going to cancel it. And if I want to do a K-Cup, I press that button, but I'm going to cancel it. Okay, so I get a lot of questions on travel mugs. I think travel mugs are going to be important on this side because we're going to be able to brew a lot more coffee because this holds 3 tablespoons. So without the drip tray, so you get about 6 inches with the drip tray installed. Again, the travel mug won't fit, but I can take the drip tray out. And now my travel mug fits. Now, this travel mug is pretty tall. This is 7 inches. It fits pretty good, and there's about an inch, about 3/4 of an inch to spare. So I could go up to about 7.5 inches. Here is the drip tray. It's got this. Let's see if we put this in there. I can still put the travel mug in. That's kind of nice because then if something drips around here, I can just take this out and clean it. Whereas if it drips in here, I got to use a rag to kind of clean it. Okay, so we're going to brew a pot of coffee. Let's talk about, here's the filter basket. Let's talk about it for a second. Now the filter basket has this plunger on the bottom. It's called pause brewing. So when the coffee pot, make sure you have to have the lid installed. Whenever the coffee carafe is installed, that's what pushes up that plunger and lets the coffee come out. And whenever you take that out, it blocks it off so you can pour a quick cup of coffee, but you can't leave it out forever or it will start to overflow. So there's this is just a little nylon washer that goes around that. That's a plunger and a spring. So this coffee maker does not come, this is a reusable filter. This is a cone, number 4 cone reusable filter. That's like a gold metal mesh that you can put in there. And then you would put your coffee right in there. Now most people use paper filters. This takes a number 4 8 to 12 cup cone filter. So again, here's my cone filters. You get 1. Okay. Now they come together like that. You got to open them up, but make sure you don't rip the seams. Open them up, and when you put it in there, cone, you can see how this is kind of wider and this is real narrow. That's how it's going to go in, like that. Okay. And I just kind of push it in with my hand, and that kind of opens it up and it kind of hugs the sides. Then you're going to put your coffee right there. So I showed you with that out, but you're going to do that typically with this basket installed, okay? And again, it's got these 2 little notches. Make sure they're lined up. Even though it kind of sits up now, when the coffee goes in, it'll push it down, and when the lid goes down, it pushes it down. Okay, so now let's talk coffee. This is just coffee that is ground at a medium grind. A lot of times they don't say medium grind or for drip coffee maker, but this is just ground coffee. Ground coffee is usually at a medium grind, and that's what we're going to use. Now this does not come with a measuring, but this is a tablespoon. So again, we're going to use 1 tablespoon per cup we're going to brew. So this is a 12 cup. If I want to brew the entire 12 cups, I need to put 12 tablespoons of coffee right into there. If I only want to brew 8 or 6, I just use accordingly the tablespoons. Now I can vary that a little bit according to my taste, but that's a good starting point. So I'm going to do a full 12 cups. So I'm going to put 12, 2, okay, I put 12 tablespoons in this filter basket. Now I need to fill my carafe up. I'm going to fill it up to the 12 mark. Ever wonder why carafes have a hinged lid? I think it's so it makes filling them up easier. So you got a big opening. Okay, I've got my carafe filled up with fresh water. I can use bottled water or filtered water. I just can't use distilled water. So now I'm going to pour the water right back here where it goes. Again, this carafe, it's got a nice opening. This coffee pot or carafe pours really nice. One of the nicest pouring ones I've used. Okay, then make sure you put this back. Again, that pops up a little bit. That's okay as long as it's in its groove. It's going to be forced down when we put the lid down. So even though my carafe was filled up to the 12 mark, I could put just a little bit more water in there. You do lose some water to steam and evaporation. So again, it's going to brew whatever amount of water I put in here. If I only wanted to do a 6-cup pot, I would have just filled it up to here and put 6 tablespoons in. So let's close the lid. The lid kind of snaps closed a little bit. Make sure it is snapped. You're going to come over here, turn the coffee maker on. I got to do one more step. I got to hit this brew button. Now when I hit that brew button, it beeps. All the other displays turn off. The only things on are these two. They're on steady. Then this is going to brew a pot of coffee. So we're going to time this, and we're going to do some temperature checks, and we're going to see how it tastes. So it starts brewing right away. It's just going to take about 12 minutes. It takes about a minute per cup you're going to brew. That's a pretty standard coffee maker. It's got kind of like that standard drip coffee maker sound. Now I don't recommend lifting this up. I'm doing it just for demonstration. See the hot water's coming out. Okay, so it's been brewing for just a little bit. There's the temperature coming out of the bottom of the brew basket. It's a little hard to get, but it's about 166. So in the top, there's the water in the top of the brew basket. It's about 180. Okay, so we're getting towards the end of the brew. You get quite a bit of steam coming out the back. It does kind of pop and snap. Again, this is really hot, so be careful. Don't lift this up. I'm doing it just for demonstration purposes. Okay, so that took about 12 minutes to brew that pot of coffee. Now, the only thing I've found with this coffee maker that's a little unusual is you don't get a notification or you don't see a different change when it's done brewing its pot of coffee. Really, the only indication you have is it kind of quiets down. It's not, you can hear the water's not draining. It's not boiling the water anymore. That's kind of an indication, but you don't get an indication up here. It doesn't beep at you. This doesn't change. Now this brew light stays on. So it came on when we pressed it, and it stays on for 2 hours because that's how you know the warming plate's on now. So it's going to keep that warming plate on for 2 hours. Then it's going to beep at you and shut that off. Now, if you're done with your pot of coffee, you can just come up here and hit the power button, and that turns it off right now. That will turn the warming plate off. And then the display will turn off after a couple minutes. So here we look at it did a pretty good job with the coffee grounds. It got pretty high in the filter, but it did not overflow. I wouldn't put any more than 12 tablespoons of coffee in there because it did get pretty high in the filter. Okay, so let's pour a cup of coffee. Again, the craft pour is really nice. It's a really, really hot cup of coffee. About 163, yeah, that's about standard. So it's not piping hot. It's not, I've had coffee makers make a lot hot cup of, but that's a really hot cup of coffee that will burn you. So I've been tasting this over the last couple of days. It makes a really nice cup of coffee. Is it my best cup of coffee I've ever had? No, but it's along the lines of kind of like a standard drip coffee maker. I don't really see a difference there. When you get into the more expensive coffee makers, it might taste a little bit better, but this makes a very good cup of coffee. Nice and strong. So a lot of times people want, so that warming plate turns off after 2 hours. There's no way to turn it back on. Let's go over cleanup real quick. So be careful, this can be hot, but you do have a little handle here you can grab. You can take that over to your trash can, dump it out. It's not going to drip because it's got that. Now the manual says this is not dishwasher safe, but boy, it sure looks like it would be. Top rack only. Okay, so let's switch gears now. Let's go over to the K-Cup side. First, I'm going to brew just a standard K-Cup. Now, they don't have to be made by Keurig. A lot of K-Cups are made by Keurig, but it should look like this. Like a foil top and kind of a plastic. And then I'll be doing the reusable filter with, you can use coffee grounds like we used on the coffee maker side. You can use them on this side. So the nice thing about K-Cups is the variety is pretty much endless. So if you want just a single cup of coffee, you know, Maxwell House, Pete's, Dunkin' Donuts, Folgers. You can even make a hot cocoa mix. These are really good. Okay, so let's talk K-Cups for just a second. So this one has not been brewed yet. So the K-Cups can only hold 2 tablespoons of ground coffee. And it's inside a paper filter. So when the bottom needle is going to poke a hole, it's going to shoot hot water in here. The paper filter is going to stop the grounds from coming out, and then the coffee will come out the bottom. So K-Cups can only hold 2 tablespoons of coffee. Now what's going to be nice about this, I found out this can hold 3 tablespoons. That's very nice. The max line's down there, and I can put my own coffee grounds in here up to 3 tablespoons. That's going to allow me to brew some more water through the K-Cup. So traditionally, my K-Cups, now you can brew whatever amount of water you want through here, but what I've found is 8 ounces through a K-Cup works the best. Now you can brew 6 ounces, you can brew 10, 12, 14, whatever works for you. I find that when you get into the 10 and 12 and 14, it just becomes too watered down. So now just pick your favorite K-Cup. Let's do a Pete's. You got to press this button and it kind of springs open. Again, there's the sharp needle. We're going to be using the K-Cup basket. So let's put the K-Cup basket in. You can put this down. Now some people will press the K-Cup down onto the needle, or the machine can do all the work. So you just set it up here any direction, and just when you push this down, it's going to poke a hole in the top and the bottom. Make sure that pops back out, and this is kind of locked down. My K-Cup's installed. Each time I got to put my water in. So I'm going to fill, I do 8 ounces, so I'm going to fill it up to the 8 ounce mark. And those are like steps. Okay, that's getting close. Now this is what's a little different. Okay, there's the 8 ounce. You know, a Keurig machine, you can just press, 8 ounce. But that's not too bad to do each time. So my display turned off, just hit the power button. Again, I'm going to do a capsule, a K-Cup. When I do the ground coffee, I'll do this button. So I just press this button. That starts the process. So what it's going to do, it's going to heat that water back up there, and then it's going to shoot it through the K-Cup. Okay, so I can hear the water boiling back here. Again, we don't want to lift this up, but I'm just showing you. And it kind of pops a little bit. I hear some popping. And again, nothing's coming out while it's boiling that water. It's going to turn a pump on here in just a minute. Okay, so after about 30, almost a minute, it turns a pump on. And now the coffee's coming out. So let's try to check a temperature. About 190. 191. That's pretty hot water coming out of there, 191. Now it's kind of a weird pump sound, kind of a pulsing pump. Not super loud, but a little different than I'm used to. Okay, we're getting towards the end. Again, it's going to brew whatever amount of water I put back there. That's an 8-ounce cup of coffee. Okay, so the pump stops, the water stops, the display kind of goes back to its normal. And now we've got a 8-ounce cup of coffee, and it's about 170. So that's hotter than the carafe side. That's a very hot cup of coffee. Now, I've been trying this earlier. That's a very good cup of coffee. I think it makes a very nice K-cup coffee. So be careful when you open this. Press this button. Again, this can be hot, but this little holder is kind of nice. That way you don't have to kind of hold the K-cup. You can take this over, throw this out, or you can put it in your recycling bin. I check out my other video. I show you how to recycle K-cups. There are a few steps you have to do. So you see there, it poked a hole in the bottom and the top. So this display flashes when that is not latched. When the lid is down, those lights aren't flashing anymore. So now let's use the reusable filter. Okay, so we're going to use the same ground coffee that we used on the carafe side, but it should be ground at a medium grind. You're just going to open this up. It's got a hinged lid. Very nice. There's kind of a O-ring. But I'm going to put the full 3 tablespoons in there. 1, 2, 3. Now again, don't go over that max line. Okay, so there it's right up to the max line. That max line is right there. Now, even though this has got a lot more room to go, you can't fill this up with just a bunch of coffee. Okay, so then you're simply just going to close the lid. Make sure it goes down all the way. Now up here, we've got to remove the K-cup basket, and we're going to put in this basket. It's going to go right there. Then we're just going to close the lid. The lid closes a lot easier with this one in than when there's a K-cup in. Now we've got to add the water. So I've done the math. If 8 ounces tastes good with 2 tablespoons, then 12 ounces should taste good with 3 tablespoons. That should be enough for a travel mug. So be careful. Travel mugs typically hold about 14 ounces. You could try for 14 ounces is the max. But I'm going to do 10 ounces, even though there's not a 10-ounce step. So we've got 6, 8, 10. You can kind of judge halfway between the 10 and the 14. So again, we got 6, 8, 10. I'll have to kind of judge. Let's just go ahead and do the whole 14 ounces. So again, I'm going to pour the water in all the way up to the 14-ounce mark, right there. I've got it filled up to the 14 step. Close this lid, turn it on, and I got to hit the ground coffee now. Again, I can hear the water kind of boiling, it's getting it ready. Nothing's coming out yet. Okay, so now the water's really boiling. It's been about a minute, 20, 30 seconds. Okay, so the pump kicks on, that same pump sound. Again, the water coming out. About 188, 190. So I may have not put the right amount of a cup underneath. Yeah, when you do the 14 ounces, make sure you got a mug that can hold 14 ounces. So we can sort of see that's kind of a weak cup of coffee. Here is the same cup of coffee on the craft side. And here it is when I brewed it with the reusable filter. Not sure what happened. So let's open up this side. Let's take a look at this reusable filter. Now it does drip. So there's the coffee grounds. Yeah, I'm definitely going to run, I was hoping I would be able to run more water through because I'm able to put a little more coffee in here, but I wasn't able to. So I'm probably going to go down to 10 ounces. So cleanup can be a little tricky. You've got to take this over and beat out those coffee grounds first. You do have to wash this out. You do get a few coffee grounds down your sink. Okay, so let's try this again. I'm going to fill it up to the max line. I've got my coffee installed. Okay, I've got the reusable filter installed. I've got my water. Let's try up to the 10 mark. Turn it on. Hit the ground coffee. So while this is brewing the 10 ounce, I want to show you that you do get a little bit of, when you use that reusable filter, you will get a little bit of sediment in the bottom of your coffee. Now, I do think sediment adds a little bit of taste, but that is quite a bit of sediment. When you use a K-cup, you don't get that sediment. You get just a little bit because the coffee is in a paper filter. So anytime you use a paper filter as opposed to like a reusable filter on the K-cup side or the coffee pot side, you do get sediment. Okay, so the coffee's coming out again. I would like to see that come out a little stronger. And again, this is only 10 ounces through that reusable K-cup as opposed to 14 ounces. I don't think the 14 ounces is going to work. But again, if it tastes good to you, then that's fine. Okay, so it's done. Now we're starting to get pretty close to when we made the craft side coffee. So this one's starting to taste a little bit. It's still just a little bit weak to me, but it's starting to taste pretty close to what the craft side tasted and what a K-cup tasted. So I'm going to play around a little bit. I'm going to try that reusable coffee filter. I'm going to try the capsule button. Even though I'm not using a K-cup, I'm using the reusable filter. I'm going to see how that does. Okay, so the pump turned on. It's hard to tell if it's brewing it any different. To me, this looks even worse, even lighter. Okay, so it's done. Actually, it turned out maybe just a little bit darker. Let's take a look at the reusable. Yeah, it's hard to see if it brewed it any differently. So my next video is, this does not have a descale light, but you should descale your coffee maker on the K-cup side and the craft side at least every 3 to 6 months. If your coffee doesn't taste as good, or if it's taken too long to brew, or if it's extremely loud, those are all signs that it's time to descale. I'm also going to do a video, I'm going to show you how to set the program and set the time. The time's really easy. You just come up here, hit the button, after you let it sit, and then that's the time. So be careful with hitting those hour and minute buttons. But I'm going to do a separate video on how to set the auto program. So you can program the craft side to have a pot of coffee in the morning ready to go automatically. So this is a very nice coffee maker. I was impressed with the K-cups. Not so impressed with the reusable filter. I know a lot of people like reusable filters. Now this is probably going to work for some people. It works at a lower ounce setting. I was really hoping for like a big travel run, 14 ounces through here because it's got 3 tablespoons and I was going to be able to fill up a travel mug. That's probably not going to be the case. Are you going to be able to use your own coffee grounds? Yes. But I think you're going to have to use a little bit more coffee grounds. So fill it up. It always says fill it up to the 3 tablespoons mark. Fill it up to the max. And then you can run how many ever ounces according to what taste you like. Thanks everybody for your support. I'll put a link in my show description notes to the mugs, to any of the mugs. This product is sold at Walmart. I am an Amazon and a Walmart affiliate. If you click on the links, the products don't cost you anymore, but I do get a little bit of money from the clicks. I buy all my own products with my own money, and that helps defer some of the cost of that. Thanks everybody for your support, and if you could, please like and subscribe.